Nirvana, the band, the show, the movie had its world premiere at the 2025 South by Southwest Film Festival, where we are here in Austin, Texas. We're really excited to talk about the latest film from Matt Johnson and his crew of mischievous scamps? I don't know.
No. I think he'd like that.
No, you said magicians.
Yeah.
That was your nice way. Imps, I think, would be the city of Toronto. They're officials.
Hey.
We are not sure if we always trust Canadians, but we like these Canadians.
We found 3 good ones so far.
This movie is an adaptation of their show that ran for 2 seasons.
Yeah.
And it is a bigger, bolder version of that same Nirvana, the band, the show experience. The world premiere screening might have been one of the best screenings we've ever been to at South by Southwest. It is a pretty daring, crazy film, a hilarious movie, and one of our early favorites, one of our definitive favorites, I think we could say, from this festival.
I would say. This was just such a unique experience. I was excited going into it. This was like my most anticipated of the festival as a Canadian. And I was like, I don't know how they live up to what they've already done. Yeah. And then they did, and so much more.
Yeah, I mean, because it's a show that is such a interesting balancing act where they do these scripted scenes in public places and pull real world elements like in a way that reminds you of elements of like Borat or the Eric Andre movies.
Everyone keeps saying Jackass with a little bit of a like trying to make the band type stuff. Mm-hmm. I think if you know nothing of the show, which is pretty much the premise is they want to play at this place called the Rivoli, which is a real place we have not been to yet. We will be going, and they're just the biggest idiots possible. They just never get the plan down. Yeah. But the idea has always been their friendship and the stuff that they go through. And this movie embodies, I think, everything from the show. Which there's 2 seasons. Mm-hmm. One is out on YouTube. The other one you have to find.
You have to find.
Yeah. Even the one that's on YouTube is, I think, illegally uploaded. Yeah. It didn't stop us from binging.
It did not stop us from binging it. But whether you know anything about the show or not, I think you can go into your Nirvana, the show, Nirvana, the band, the show, the movie screening, and have a great time.
Amazing title, which we haven't yet quite said, but I love the title alone makes me so happy. This movie made me so happy because you see some of the sort of scrappiness in it. It doesn't look that high budget, yet you know there's so much masterful craft in there and how precise they're able to execute these scenes and sort of blur the lines of reality. And I think the experience of watching this movie is also one where you're constantly playing detective in wondering, is this real? Is this fake? How did they pull this off? And at a certain point, you don't really care anymore because it's just really, really fun.
That's exactly
either way is crazy. If they actually got people to react in that way, that's insane. Mm-hmm. If you found an actor who portrayed it that real, that's also great. Yeah. They knocked it out of the park.
Yeah, it's also I feel like we need to shout out Jared, who was he's their camera guy, who's a character in his own right. I think everybody just thinks it's the main 2 guys, but Jared is really this constant force in the show, and you feel it just as much in the movie. Like there's a couple scenes it's like, I know you, I can trust you. I don't know you.
I mean, the crew is sort of part of the narrative too. We haven't even really talked plot. We don't want to get too much into it. But it is, as you mentioned, the same thing as the show where Matt and Jay are Nirvana the band and they're trying to play a show at the Rivoli and they come up with all sorts of schemes and plans to get it done. And here...
Where did this budget come from?
The Canadian government.
Unbelievable intro. I expected it to be funny. I expected it to be belligerent. I did not expect it to have a better intro than what I would put up there with The Dark Knight freaking Rises, bro.
It's one of those movies, like there are special movies like The Dark Knight.
No one's expecting,
where the opening sequence just guarantees you a good time. Like it is such
never in a million years,
incredible feat where you can't believe what you're seeing. It's so funny.
It's insane.
Yeah, so daring, and that's so a lot of the films. It's so daring, while also being farcically silly.
Pick up on that because if they were already doing these things and they weren't supposed to. Getting a pat on the back by the government, I think, emboldened them to get even crazier, but explain where it came from.
Yeah, it's pretty much, so they did Blackberry, which was here.
Excellent.
One of our favorites 2 years ago.
We're on the
Still love it.
for it.
Love it more every time you see it. So the Canadian government was just so happy with how that movie turned out that they basically were like, we will fund whatever you want to do next. And he was like, we made Blackberry to make the movie for Nirvana, the band, the show. So, that made people think, so you got permission to do a lot of things. And it's like, absolutely not. They
just got the green light to make fun of Canada by Canada.
Yeah, I think half the budget is going to their lawyer.
Yeah.
Like the Canadian government is paying their lawyer.
People who've been interested in this project know that there was a moment where Matt Johnson and Jared showed up in the background of news footage outside Drake's house after the shooting there last year.
Yeah.
The way they're able to incorporate elements like that is so funny. And
that's what I'm
so inventive.
Because you're almost playing 5 different games with the movie. You're enjoying it. You're also enjoying it if you're a fan and you're picking up on certain things.
Yeah.
There were jingles I remember. There were jingles I didn't.
Yeah.
It did not bother me. It still works within the context of the movie.
Yeah.
But then there's that extra meta element where the moment a scene came up and you're like, we know the behind the scenes to that.
Yeah.
It just made me leave the screening going, no, but what the heck are the behind the scenes to the other stuff?
Yeah, exactly.
And they explained some other things. I was like,
did.
did they not catch you? Is there a B-roll
No,
of
and then
it?
it hits a certain point where people start asking very specific questions.
Yeah.
And they're just kind of like, I don't know what you mean.
Yeah.
And then they'll keep being like, no, but how did you? It's like, we didn't do that.
No.
They're like good magicians in that way, in that they'll maybe let you into a little bit of like how the act is done, but they
not
don't
the
want to
whole
reveal
thing.
their
Not
secret.
the whole
They can't, because then it's like you're kind of giving the police what they need to convict you.
Maybe if they have a good lawyer, we'll see.
Well, then it's just kind of like, well, no, that was clearly fake.
They also, in talking about their lawyer, have talked
a big
about
part, yeah.
the potential copyright issues this movie's going to face.
Because there's all the pranking, for sure.
Yeah.
That's for safety. The copyright issue is where it affects us as viewers.
Yeah.
Because he presented it saying you may never see a version like this ever again.
Yeah.
And that happened in Blackberry.
You may actually be the only people in the world who ever even see this movie.
We can hope.
Well, that's pretty serious. So, while you're watching it, try to remember everything so that you can describe it to the people of the future.
Whatever they're missing here, whatever may change, it's a track record this guy has.
I think something changed in between screenings we saw. We saw 2 screenings.
No way.
I won't say what it was, but someone says an address, and it was a woman's voice, and that's not in the second version we saw.
Already?
I don't know
could
if he
be
has
wrong.
time to even do that between those screenings.
There
I think he
is.
already has them set. He's got
No,
1,
that's
2,
literally
3.
once you literally just, that's that night. You just let it go overnight.
He
and
did
you're
say
good to
that.
go.
Remember, the cool thing about Blackberry was like, if like 3 screenings don't get a laugh or a joke, we will switch it to another one.
Yeah.
So I don't know how crazy he's going to
And I
get
could
with
be
that.
wrong.
But
I could be crazy.
But getting into the copyright thing
Yeah.
without spoiling what they are, it is
Yeah.
incredible what they did.
Yeah, because if
Yeah.
you've watched Nirvana the band, the show, you know that it's full of references. Almost every episode is a parody of some
what
movie.
is the name
And
of
that's
the
important.
band? What's the name?
Literally,
Double
right?
Ends. Like they even make a joke around that, being like, "Did you know there's already a band named after
Yeah.
us?" And they're like,
There's
"Yeah,
already
the
a band named The Band?"
There's already a band named the
Besides
band.
it being an
Like,
inside joke, the idea that it does need to be 2 ends.
yeah,
We know a lot of studios who are very particular, like, you need to say the name of the actor, this, like that.
Yeah.
The fact that they're resharing and putting the extra ends in there, they're a funny team.
They're funny.
And they
They're
have a
hilarious.
great studio behind them so far. But only Canada has distribution.
Elevation Pictures, baby.
The U.S. is still up in the air
Yeah.
because of a buttload of things that they put in there. And
Yeah.
I don't think any of them can change because they are integral to
They're
the movie.
integral.
Yeah, and hopefully just the right distributor gets the nerve to put a movie like this out. It is kind of the runaway hit of this festival.
Yeah.
I don't think I've talked to a single person here who has seen Nirvana and said it's not their favorite film they saw here at
There
South
was
by.
like 2 people who were talking to me, like
Yeah, but there's
younger
always
girls.
weird-
But
oh,
it was
talking
like,
to you.
It was
Okay.
younger girls. And maybe they didn't get it. Maybe they didn't know what they were going into. They didn't see him. When I said it was my favorite, they were like, "Oh yeah, we saw that yesterday." And I was like,
It's the friendship lady who was complaining.
no. But I'm like, it is a very particular type of comedy.
Right.
Like there are people I would never
Sure.
recommend it to, but a lot of people who had no familiarity with the show at all loved it.
Yeah,
So
I think it works even if you're not
I think
a
it
fan.
works.
In particular because you get the gist immediately.
Immediately.
You get that they're semi-pranking the people who are around them. Like I said, instead of seeing the show, I would see the behind the scenes so you
Yeah.
can appreciate what they're getting away with.
Yeah.
But in particular, there's a couple of songs that because of the plot, which you'll talk about in a bit, that they kind of get into that I'm curious if they're going to clear, but there is one joke in a movie theater.
because we didn't specifically mention it, but it is in the description of the movie, or maybe we did mention it. But it's kind of time travel-y. They end up back in 2008.
And it's such a smart choice. If the person who directed that movie, I already told Zach, he's got to give an extra star to that director's movie.
I mean, that's not happening. I did give plenty of stars to this one. We all
you did.
We all came out of this movie going 5 stars across the board. Not something we're typically want to do out of film festivals, but I think we all just had a really incredible experience with this one. And as you were saying, like this isn't going to be a movie for everybody, and I'm sometimes worried about giving something such effusive praise when I know there'll be people who just don't get the joke.
Yeah, and then they try to turn it on you, being like, you're lying. And I'm like, yeah, I'm lying. Okay, maybe I would because I'm Canadian. But like,
right.
A bunch of people in Texas aren't going to lie about some movie being a 5-star because of like some co-op thing. It's like, we're Canadian. We don't have the money to do that.
The thing about it, though, is that like this is a perfect version of what it is. And I really cemented to me on the second time that I watched it, just that every scene is so well crafted and builds on the premise and adds to the joke. There's no real wasted moment. It is hysterical, literally hysterical.
No, it is. It's one of the funniest movies I've seen since the movie we have not mentioned.
I don't even like the movie that we haven't mentioned. I never liked that
That's
movie.
why I think this one demolishes it completely. Yeah. It truly is funny. Like, it is very subjective, but we were cackling. Alina was snorting. Yeah. People were like going crazy for it. Yeah. And then there's heart to it.
He's got
all
so
of
much
those
heart.
things. I will argue the 5 out of 5 every single day because if anyone even cares if you gave something a 5, well, they already care. Just listen then.
Yeah. I had challenged both of you to like, what is the last time you've laughed that much in a movie theater? For me, it might be like Pop Star, Never Stop Stopping. It might be those Apatow comedies of 2008, Superbad, Knocked Up, but it really is like a kind of generationally funny movie.
I think mine was more recent, and it's funny because I think it makes the perfect double feature at this festival. It was Friendship. It was Tim Robinson's Friendship. I think that's hilarious.
Very hilarious.
This is funnier somehow. Somehow this is funnier than Friendship, even though I
did the math. It's twice as funny.
Friendship, yeah. But I don't know about twice, but it's like
1.4.
It's just it's similar vein, not the same. But like if you like one, I can't imagine not liking the other to some degree.
Maybe
some
I would argue
parallels.
as well, but I've seen some people who aren't. Who don't vibe with it, but I was like,
but then they probably didn't vibe with Nirvana either.
Exactly. So the chances are you probably don't like them. But if you like one or the other, you got yourself a pair. A good double feature.
Because in both days that Friendship played, Nirvana played on the same day. So there was a perfect double feature. So like, I think it's great. So yeah, if you're a fan of like things like I Think You Should Leave, not that I would say they're super similar, but it is just kind of that awkward humor. That like, and Matt Johnson's so good at it, like just the way he can interact with people on the street and have them do things for him and then still weave it into the story that's actively happening, because it's like, no, we don't even have to do a script because people are just going to act the way we want them to act.
It's pretty funny.
It's very irreverent. It's super entertaining. It's just a really great time. I hope people get a chance to see it in a version that's at least similar to the one that we saw, because it's a great, great movie.
On top of that, I hope that it helps push the show out, because you were kind of explaining to me that a lot of it was on Vice.
Yeah.
And now you can't find one season unless you're on the Internet Archive. The season 2 is on YouTube, which you can catch. But like, if they're pushing this to go out into theaters, hopefully they can make a box set. They can do something. They can host the other one. So and maybe more Nirvana. Who knows? Maybe
they want
perhaps.
season 3. They do want season 3.
Quizás. I'm excited for it because I think that this just levels up everything that it's a perfect movie for the people who have never heard of them to be like, what the heck? There's 2 seasons for me to go back to, and all the movies that he's made with his team. Because as you were mentioning, Jared has also been a cinematographer for the other stuff that they've done. There was a period in time, I say 2 years ago, when we saw Talk to Me, and coming out of that, because we're YouTubers, we got a lot of like, you only like this because it's a YouTube movie.
No.
That year had a terrible YouTuber movie.
That's what I mean. It's actually the opposite.
Exactly. And that was dismissed because, of course, there's like a bias. Yeah. So the same thing happens here, because I think people take one, comedy, and 2, these guys as like being lesser. Like, they cannot be a 5-star movie. We have talked about, like you were saying, they are genius filmmakers. Genius. The stuff that they come up with. What was the quote that he said at the Q&A? It takes a lot.
It takes a lot to look this shitty.
It takes a lot to look. It costs a lot to look this cheap. Costs a lot to look this cheap. Thank you, Dolly Parton and Matt Johnson, for that quote.
Dolly Parton and Matt Johnson.
And that's the energy.
Care. Yeah. You're thinking you're seeing something that's like, oh, they just got away with this. It's like, no, you don't know how many takes they did to perfect what that joke was. The Easter eggs are in the background that are not just for fans. It is a love letter to what it is to be a creative and to have others that you have with you. And to almost, if you were able to send a message back in time to tell them, like, is this the thing that you want to continue going forward to? And for the fans who were there, for the people who are going to become fans, I think that's why this movie is a 5 out of 5. It's beautiful. It should be on people's radar.
It's beautiful. Because, like, we're talking about how funny it is, but it is so moving at the same time.
It's
get you. Great. It's so good.
This is a movie that we're definitely going to want to get into more details on at a point when people have a chance to see it twice like we did.
Yeah.
There's just so much fun stuff in there. We had such a great time with it. our highest recommendation out of the festival for
Absolutely.
sure. So yeah, make sure to keep your eyes out for Nirvana, the band, the show, the movie, and keep it locked on the Intercut podcast channel for more reviews out of South by Southwest 2025.